So what's my present thinking on non-dualism? Well, I've made the connection between non-dualism and Eckhart Tolle, the living in the present moment guy, German chap. He's very funny. One thing about Eckhart Tolle is that he did spend a lot of time sort of living on a park bench and not doing anything. I think he'd be very keen to say at one stage he would want to do something, and then at another stage he'd want to do something else. That wouldn't necessarily be in one's own control. And when you think about that, we're getting onto the free will argument. Have we actually got free will or not? Well, I think we've got a limited amount of free will, but we can't really even have free will as to what we think, what our priorities are, how our personality changes. And obviously our personality does change over the years, and that's quite out of control. And one thing that I think Eckhart Tolle argues quite strongly is that it's good for people to get to old age, experience old age when they can't actually do anything. Because all this doing, he would say, was in the ego, and ego wasn't good because ego's sort of something that's not you driving you. Because if you're thinking about living in the present moment, you're thinking about what you're thinking in the present moment, and then that's a way that you can appreciate beauty, like see things for the first time. That is something that tends to happen more to people when they get older because they can't do so much. They haven't got so much energy and they haven't got so much strength to do things. And also people don't take them quite so seriously as when they're a bit younger. When people are in the prime of life, you're not expected to do quite so much. So elderly people have got more time to do things like a meditation, or just sit and quiet and just look at things, enjoy life, watch the world go by. One thing that Eckhart Tolle doesn't say is how he reconciles his present life, because he must be earning a huge amount of money, because as I said before, the tickets for his recitals, or whatever you'd call them, there was one in the Albert Hall. I think the ticket was £153. Albert Hall's a big place. Must be making a lot of money somewhere. But he doesn't need much because he's got this non-attachment. So he's not really attached to things, so he doesn't need things. But I dare say he's got foundations and philanthropic things which do good. There's quite a lot of talk amongst the non-dualistic speakers and the living in the present moment speakers about being awakened. Now, of course, the thing in Buddhism is more about enlightened, receiving enlightenment. And I'm not quite sure, but I think they argue that possibly the only person that may have been enlightened was the Buddha. They possibly say that no one is going to be enlightened in this life, but they do believe in many lives and the eternity of the soul. And I think this awakening is about living in the present moment, looking at the world in a more whole way, looking at the world in a non-dualistic way, thinking that we are all part of everything. One thing I like is the idea of a dewdrop in the morning on a little flower or on a little leaf or something, and it's on, cliff edge, and it drops down and it drips down into the sea. The vastness of the sea, a little bit like what we are. We're just a dewdrop and then we drop down into the sea, the vast ocean. Another person that I've been watching a lot of is Gary Zukav, who's a great friend of Oprah Winfrey, influenced Oprah Winfrey greatly. He's the seat of the soul man, and he's also written about the Zukav warriors, which is about quantum physics. And when you get down to the quantum level, all that we are is electricity. We've got atoms, we're made of atoms, we're made of stardust. But if you break an atom down, then it becomes into particles, and particles are just electricity. So in a way, we've got a lot of water in us. If you go down to a lower level, we're just like a wave of electricity. And you think about some of these things, we are quite fragile, and we are just here for a moment in this world. 70 years and 10 is but a moment, and we are gone. Gary Zukav's big thing is the power of love, that with this awakening, in every situation you've got the choice of whether to choose love or not, or the other choice. He says the choice is for love. A lot of the other choices, retaliation or whatever, are fueled by the ego. The ego has two sides to it, ego trip high and the low. feeling sorry for once. So that's all in the ego. But if you're living in the present moment, you like forget the past, and anything that's upset you in the past, forget it. You don't need it. Or anything that you've done wrong in the past, even that you don't need it. Forget it. You're a blank sheet. Start again. Gary Zukov. Well, quite a lot of people think that we are moving into this sort of cosmic consciousness time. I'm not so sure that we are. I mean, some people think we're getting better and better, and some people think we're getting worse and worse. Certainly we're getting more populated and more populated. More aeroplanes and more pollution and more goodness knows what. Things aren't looking that wonderful in some senses. Now, just to go on to what I think of the human mind at the moment, I've gone big on instinct. I think there's an awful lot that you're born with that comes instinctively. People learn to read very quickly. You're related more to your maternal grandfather and your paternal great-grandmother, or the other way around. So if you think of the times when those people were alive or existing, times people were illiterate, so literacy is quite new. So if you come from a strain which hasn't been literate, you may find it reading quite hard. Thinking that there is an awful lot that comes genetically through instinct. They're seeing now how things like dogs are evolving to be looking up to their masters and things like this, and how quickly things do evolve. And we are evolving at great speed. And so some people find things very easy to learn. They've got this gift because they've got it in their ancestry. So that is the instinct side. And then we've got another side, big side of ourselves, which is the unconscious or the subconscious. And some say that this unconscious or subconscious is 95% of our thinking mind. So a lot of stuff that we do, we do it subconsciously. Well, things like breathing, walking, driving, you learn things, and then you've got it all at the back of your mind doing it subconsciously. And the 5 or 10% that we've got of the conscious mind is the bit which is important. Eckhart Tolle would say the bit that we need to concentrate on, because that's what we've got choices on. And of course we can train the unconscious mind by rote, like the times tables. We learnt them by rote, or half of them. Don't think anybody can remember everything about times tables off just like that. But we've learnt them basically by rote, and we learnt to drive by rote, and you learn things by rote. So we're not that imprisoned by our unconscious mind. We can still do things with it. And some people say that we can reprogram the bad emotions in the unconscious mind, or the bad scripts. We can reprogram those through hypnotism or Psych K. So that's the way I see the mind at the moment. And then the unconscious has a tremendous amount of autonomy about it. If you think of the dream world, you have very little control of the dream world, and sometimes it's very autonomous, almost telling you things that you didn't even know. So I've been coming round to this idea that we haven't got much free will. We've got a tiny bit of free will, I'd say, but we're not exactly who we want to be. We can't exactly choose what we want to do, and we'll always be getting it wrong. So, sort of rounding up then on the topic of non-dualism, what I feel it's about is letting go of all the baggage, getting into that 10% of the conscious mind, seeing things afresh, seeing people afresh, not putting things in boxes, because you've seen it, that's a tree, seeing the tree for the first time, and then in doing that, what these non-dualistic thinkers will be saying, you're becoming not enlightened, becoming awakened, and then there's a whole load of these people who are awakened. Of course, there's other people who think that there's going to be a big catastrophe coming, like the Earth going off its axis and creating a huge tidal wave which destroys everybody. But that's a different matter, isn't it? It's only if we don't have a huge catastrophe that we'll have this chance for awakening. Politicians tend to play down the idea that we're going to have a big catastrophe like the oceans rising, because it doesn't take very much to cause complete civil unrest. If we thought that a huge number of homes were going to be flooded. The whole country would become ungovernable. It would just be chaos and riots. Not riots, it would just be, we'd just revert to being like animals, I think, wouldn't we? Anyway, hope I get this edited up. There's quite a lot of it, but there we have it, non-dualism. Don't go for non-dualism if you want to get on in the world. Just if you want to sort of be laid back and sort of let go of things. And as I say, it's not really appropriate if you want to sort of make a lot of money, I don't think, or do anything fantastic, sort of ego sort of stuff. I'm not really a ego death person anyway. I'm quite keen on the ego. You know, I think we need a bit of ego to get us going. When you get too laid back, you just fall asleep because you've got so many opportunities in the world. But I think the non-dualism thing does have, you know, it does have mileage. It's worthwhile, especially if you're suffering a lot of stress. Right, bye for now.